in the sky. You don't.
All right, Putin is ordering the Russian army to become the second largest after China's 1.5 million strong. We're going to tell you exactly why this is one of the closest proofs that a massive, massive war is coming. And we'll talk about, of course, the potential that if this is just a show of force, or if this is just a show to intimidate people, or if this is something that they can actually do. And is this preparation for a massive war with NATO, not Ukraine? Again, let's get right into it. Of course, they say that now Putin has signed and ordered a regular size of the Russian army to be increased by 180,000 troops to 1.5 million active servicemen in a move that would make it the second largest in the world after China's. In a decree published by the Kremlin's website, Putin ordered the overall size of the armed forces to be increased to 2.38 million people, of which he said 1.5 million should be active servicemen. According to data from the International Institute for Strategic Studies, IISS, a leading military think tank, such an increase would see Russia leapfrog the United States and India in terms of the number of active combat soldiers it has at its disposal, and second only to China in size. The IISS said that Beijing just has over 2 million active duty service personnel. The move, the third time Putin has expanded the army ranks since sending his military into Ukraine in February of 2022, comes as Russian forces push forward in eastern Ukraine on parts of a vast 1,000-kilometer or 627-mile front line to try to eject Ukrainian forces from Russia's Kursk region. Now, one point to make here is that it actually costs a lot of money. That's 180,000 salaries. I mean, that is really incredible. If you think about it, to add 180,000 full-time salaries, or a chunk of money for their terms. Now, of course, this would be to add in, and to get them to do it, is it even possible? Of course, they've already conscripted forces. They've had volunteers. But this is, obviously a huge, huge increase. What would have to happen for his country to really want to go and sign up for the military? So it is very, very incredible. On top of some other stories, yesterday, an attempt on our former president. Again, a second attempt. We'll talk about that and everything else, all of the current events, when we come back. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Before we get started, remember you can get a full bibliography for today's show over on the website, marfooglenews.com, and just look for today's thumbnail. All you have to do is look for the usual suspects. Only this movie's real. Prepare for 2025. Have a plan. You will find a full list of every source that we use for today's show. That way you know exactly where the information is coming from, and you can be the judge for yourself. Or if you see an article that we don't get fully into, you can go and finish it yourself. All right, let's bring in my co-host, internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hey there, Adam, and a big hello to the Foogle fam. I am doing just fine, and I'm ready to dive in.
All right, so first of all, we're going to talk about Russia may have shared nuclear secrets with Iran in exchange for missiles. How does this story also fit into this raise of the soldiers, as far as they're going to make themselves the second largest manned army, or at least that's what they're saying?
Well, I think the biggest thing they need munitions, and we've seen, or at least it's being reported, that the rush of munitions that came in from North Korea helped them significantly in UKR. That we've started to see those on the battlefield, and that was a significant number. Now, when the U.S. reported that Iran had sent in these ballistic missiles to Russia, that also would help them, because it would help them give them options of what to use and when to use. So they didn't have to necessarily use longer range equipment. They could use some of these shorter range stuff from Iran in the UKR-1, saving their longer range or more sophisticated weaponry for use, obviously, for a conflict with NATO. So the whole idea of this potentially being the exchange, which is giving nuclear secrets, because we know Iran needs and wants nukes. And look, you can go look at North Korea and see they didn't get here on their own. They got here because they had help from their friends being Russia. However you want to define that help, they got to where they are today because of it. And Iran is doing the same thing. And it more than likely is that we're seeing a transfer in exchange for these weapons being shipped in from Iran to Russia, in exchange of secrets, nuclear capabilities, whatever it may be that Iran needs to finish off and create their weaponry.
And of course, now with the event that just happened over the last 48 hours, which was an attempt on our former prez on his golf course, there are already kind of these, these messages that, oh, well, this is most likely going to be tied back to Iran or this or that. Obviously, everybody is speculating about the gentleman who did it. If you haven't seen the video that we just did a second ago, we of course talked about that. Very, very odd kind of predictive stuff that came out right before it. But also with Iran, this is part of a bigger part. You've got North Korea, you've got, of course, China, you've got Iran, you have South Africa, you have Cuba, you have Venezuela, you have all of these parties, including Russia, all getting together. They're all signing treaties. They're all looking to back each other up in a war. And in this, I think that when they talk about the increase to servicemen, all of these critics or people that are putting out op-eds saying, oh, well, we don't think they have the money to do it. Well, those same experts said that they weren't going to have money, and after we did the huge sanctions that would have probably ended many other countries, after we did those sanctions, all of the other countries kind of stepped in place, including India. India actually bought in the same month time period from before the Russian sanctions to after the sanctions, they bought 6 times as much oil from Russia, and they probably got a good discount, but again, they bought 6 times the amount of oil they normally would. So you have countries like that are basically making up for all of the countries that are not doing stuff with Russia or doing certain stuff. So everybody's going to get them through this. If they need money for 180,000 more soldiers and to make themselves the largest military or the second largest military in the world or manned army, I think they can do it, especially since China and all of these others will chip in because they have some sort of bigger goal in mind. They're trying to become the new cool kids. They're trying to take the place of the Western nations. So that's what I think they are trying to do, and I think they have help from the people at the very top, as long as those people at the top stay at the top. Now, as far as Aurora Alert, powerful geomagnetic storm could spark northern lights across U.S. and Europe tonight. So if you're not watching Wages and not getting some of the crazy updates that have been happening with solar activity, then you definitely want to tune in to him as well. But a combination of powerful solar events has prompted the NOAA Space Weather Prediction Center to issue a geomagnetic storm warning for today. It says this is great news for those wishing to see the northern lights. The predicted geomagnetic storm could spark auroras deep into the mid-latitudes around 50 degrees or as far south as California, Missouri, and Oregon. This culprit, in this case, there are actually two. The first is a large plume of plasma and magnetic field known as coronal mass ejection that was released from the sun during the colossal X-class flare, the most powerful class of flare, on September 14th. The X 4.5 solar flare peaked at 11:29 a.m. and was the fifth largest solar flare of the current solar cycle. So one thing I want to point out is we obviously saw this crazy event about 3 or 4 months ago, which was the craziest things I've ever seen. I knocked one thing off of my bucket list a few months ago. I wanted to see auroras in the sky. Well, I got to see those, and I was in Seattle. I mean, it's really nuts to be able to say that I could see that. You know, I thought I had to go to Alaska or somewhere, of course, top of the world kind of thing. But of course I didn't, and that's because of all of the crazy solar events. This is something that we've also talked about as a community. Everybody, gets obviously enthralled with all of the other events going on right now because it really does seem like everything is hitting us at once. But I want to point out, we have been warning about this as well. This is something that many in our community believe is the top threat. They believe that a CME, especially during this crazy solar cycle 25, could actually be the thing that tears everything down. Some even believe that is why people are trying to, the rich are getting ready, the rich are getting plan Bs ready, that they're getting golden passports and all of this. Some think it's pole shift, some think it's this. But one thing I will say is that there is a lot of information about the solar flares, and there is a lot of information about as far as the cycles. And there are two gentlemen that at first said, their theories on what was going on, and they were looking at a 22-year cycle instead of an 11-year cycle. And at first, a lot of people said, no, I don't know about that. Now experts are actually jumping on board. And this has been happening for about over 2 years, jumping on board of these guys' theory, which is that solar cycle 25, during its maximum, might have some of the most unpredictable and insane events that our sun has ever done, or at least has done in the last 400 years. So they look at the termination event before the 11 years, and then they look at that second set of 11, and they go, okay, well, we saw this before that, and that's how they're trying to predict solar events. Well, they saw a termination event, or an event that was very similar to one that we had a long, long time ago, and that's why they believe that this event, specifically solar cycle 25, one that has been predicted for like 10 years now is going to be crazy, is now having auroras down as far as California. I mean, I guess, have you guys seen this in your lifetime? I have not, but maybe I wasn't paying attention when I was a kid. This seems like we're having a lot of firsts of everything, at least in our lives. Dex, do you remember a time when you were a kid where there was auroras all over the country and things like this?
No. Not that I can recall, and I've never seen them until that big event that happened, like you said, a few months back. And we even saw them here in Georgia. Obviously, this time is not that big, but it's still big. I mean, a lot of people are going to get to see it. It's basically a double hit. We're getting hit by two different events. I think, Wages will cover the technical details. So if you guys want to go watch it, I mean, he's probably, we'll put a link to this latest video. But there's been so much going on with the activity of the sun, especially with the these I guess, holes that are there that are pointed at us, that as they come back around and they're just firing, flare after flare after flare. There's been some really gnarly ones he's covered that if they'd hit Earth, it would have probably been close to a game over scenario. They didn't come right at us. They were, fortunately, at that moment in time, were pointed in the other direction. But these sunspots is what some of them are doing. But yeah, we're in this time period between now and the next couple of years, I guess, or maybe the next year, where we're supposed to be seeing the greatest amount of solar activity. And we're also at the time in our life when we're the most technological, so we have the most amount to lose.
And one thing I want to point out, this is something that our community has been talking about for 6, 7, 8 years. And I guess, back then you would say, well, I guess, we'll see when we get there, right? We'll see if the proof is in the pudding. Well, now the proof is in the pudding. The last year and a half, we've had all of these crazy events. And like Dex said, I mean, I've been on this earth for almost 40 years. I have never seen this. Again, people haven't seen this that are 60, 70, 80. So why is there so many firsts that are happening? Is something different? Is there a big change going on? Are they telling us the full truth about it? Probably not. Is it even a threat? Well, again, I'll leave that all up to you in the chat. Leave a comment below if you'd like. I'd love to hear from you. Again, what do you guys think about the solar events that have been happening in this lifetime? It's been getting pretty crazy. Solar cycle 25 is shaping up to be one of the most insane solar cycles of our lifetimes. So tell us what you think. Let's go over to the chat. Let's do a quick roll call. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Buck, Mr. Fiden. Let's see here. James Damron, what is going on? Brian Stevens, Nickel Wise, Poco Loco, what is happening? Let's see here. Zoltan Kavats. We've got Tracy Q. We've got Karen Peterson. Life is Better on Stilts. Hey, nice to see you. It's awesome to have you back. Harley Berg. We have Sue Ellen, Frank Walls. We've got a few new names here. Thank you for joining us. And again, thank you for giving us a chance here. J.R. Pull Horse. We've got Stormblade X69. We've got Gemcat. It says, peace. Husband. We've got Joe Tyner. Rhiannon S. Hey! Rhiannon S. Obviously, awesome person, runs our Facebook. J-Pass. Randy, man, thank you. Mushy Wooshy, thank you. Rip Curl, thank you for not only being in this show, but being in the last. I believe you made comments saying that gentleman that waited for the former prez was there for upwards of 12 hours or something like that. So just that whole thing. Dex and I were actually talking about it right before the show. We were talking about, what do you do? Because now they're trying to say that, oh, well, there's always been this gap at that golf course, and they've tried telling T-Man, they make it look like he's stubborn, like, hey, there's gaps there that we absolutely can't cover. But I was actually thinking about it. How would you live your life in that kind of danger all the time? I thought of an idea, and I think it's probably not one that could be actually, like Dex said to me, it probably isn't workable because of the weight. But I said, what about if he's golfing, have like a huge bulletproof glass clear pane or something that two guys, carried and moved towards the most probable spot or something, right? Like if you've got water on this side, maybe have it on this side. But as he's pointed out, he says it will probably be really heavy or too heavy to do. But how would you do something like that? Golfing in an open field or something? What do you walk with, 7 people around you huddling? I mean, like a rugby match or something? Obviously, that doesn't work. How do you protect something like that? In the speech that he did after he got, attempted at, they had him in a glass box, essentially. So is that the answer? What is it? Dex, you pointed out that you can't really do that, but I thought, man, with all the industrial tech that they have, like a pane of glass or something with 2 RC, robotic wheels or something, have it drive alongside him or something, because how else, what are you going to do? Now he's got multiple attempts, and I don't think it's going to stop.
Yeah, well, it's funny because at the attempt that happened in when he was on the stage, he had a shield, but it was like half height, and it was meant to duck under. And now whenever he's live in the outdoor areas, they've literally got glass around him. But when he's in a private event golfing, there's no glass, and it's not easy to do, I don't think. If it was easy, they'd probably do it. But the real problem I see is that they're not, there's two things. They're not putting the layer of protection on that they need. If they wanted to, they could secure a greater layer. If the sitting president were on that golf course, I guarantee you there would be nobody anywhere near rifle range around there that didn't get, screened. So that's number one. That could have happened, but they choose not to. They choose to treat it differently. And then the second thing is this was private. This was a private event. Nobody knew about it. Only his close inner people. So how did this guy know to show up and hang out for 12 hours, as some are saying, at this one place because he knew he was coming? Who gave him that information?
Yeah, and how do these guys just perfectly get the luck where they're just in the right place where they're not spotted until the event? Now, they said that they saw the barrel popping out of a bush. It almost seems like something out of Caddyshack, right? You just see this long barrel kind of popping out of the bush like, hey, barrel! Like, did he get, again, did he get spotted right away when he popped out? What kind of bush is this? And if they have bushes where somebody could hide like that, why weren't they checked? I don't know. I guess if I was security, if there was something like that, even if there's a couple guys, you'd think they would go ahead and check that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, and if it was a pro, the barrel wouldn't have poked out of the bush, ever.
Exactly. Dex, we had a small conversation. Can you repeat what you said beforehand? Like, why is it always these inexperienced guys?
Oh, yeah. So that's the other thing. It's like, for as much as a lot of people want to point and say, oh, well, somebody's out to get them, and the people that are out to get them are high up, why are the higher ups, if that's the people that are out to get them that are potentially doing this, why are they leveraging people that are just incapable of pulling the job off? Like, you would expect somebody to put, a seasoned, sniper trained person, even if it's from another country, if they, if somebody from our own country didn't like him enough, you would expect to see somebody like that. And mind you, if they did, more than likely it would happen. It would be successful, and they would get away, because they're well trained. And it seems like it's always somebody that's just completely incapable of pulling off the job. So that leads many different layers to the different theories that people may have on this. But it's the question I ask. Obviously don't want to see anything bad happen to them. But when you go down that path of wondering if somebody in power is doing it, then why are they hiring these, lunatics that can't perform the duty?
So I was looking, is this the golf course? Because this is the club is right here, but obviously there's no golf course there. So is that, I wonder if...
I think he was a few miles away. I don't think he was at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the club.
Looks like there's two, but this does not look as... I don't know. That does not look as big. So you have... also, you could have a boat with a sniper or something, I would guess, because both of the ones nearby, I'm guessing one of these is it, right? I would think it would be this bigger one it looks obviously a lot grander than the other, because this looks like a full course. But I don't know. I've never been to Mar-a-Lago. Was he just hiding in a literal bush, How did they do that? If he got in the fences, did he get in as a guest? Did he cut a fence and go through? Is there no security there? At this point, he is a billionaire. No matter how many times he's filed bankruptcy or what he's lost from different lawsuits, I'm sure he has the money. He could spend $100,000, $500,000, $500,000 on some sort of security thing like what the White House has. Have sensors on the grass or something that if anybody comes along that fence, they're there, because he golfs here all the time. You would think that they would set up kind of a more permanent thing at that place like that. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, on the map, he was at Trump International Golf Club, which is in West Palm. So if you're at Mar-a-Lago, zoom out and head about 4 miles, maybe 5 miles to the west into the mainland. And the golf course is directly below Palm Beach International Airport. So if you see the airport runways, it'll be a golf course directly below that. There's a small course, and then there's the big course. It's the big course. Zoom out more.
Okay. Let's see here.
Oh, wait, that's way too much.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So Mar-a-Lago, you said about 5 miles west? So right here.
Yeah, further in. It's going to be right by Palm Beach International Airport. Yep, Palm Beach.
Well, that's Royal Palm Beach. Palm Beach Zoo. Huh.
Further to the right, or further to the east. Okay, further to the west now. I know I'm delayed. I'm sorry.
Is it right here? There's a lot of golf courses, actually, it looks like. I don't see any airports, though. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, the runway should be big enough to see. Maybe you need to zoom in a little more. It's only 5 miles out from directly Mar-a-Lago head. If you take the highway straight,
what is it called?
West from Mar-a-Lago.
It's called Trump International.
Trump International Golf Course, West Palm Beach. It should come up.
Here we go. Oh, I hovered over it a million times. Okay, so it's right here. So let's go back to the map here. So this is it. This is it in correspondence. Oh, that's why. I was looking way too far in. So this is the golf course. And you can see there's a ton of shrubbery here. I'm trying to look at what the fence is like. Obviously, they have a gated kind of security there. What are the fences like, though? You know, is there a street view? Is this some place where you can easily get into? That's kind of scary if this is somewhere he, you know, golfs a lot. You would think with a place that looks like this, that this would be kind of easier to get into. I don't know. The whole thing is pretty crazy. But was it a surprise to anybody to hear this? In fact, people are so used to it, and people are so used to hearing it, that there was going to be another attempt, that no one was surprised by this. We, like, you know, right when it popped up yesterday, it wasn't, I was like, oh my gosh. But it wasn't like we were like, oh, like the first time, I guess, too, because we were seeing it minutes after. But this time it was like, yeah, we kind of expect it. So that's the thing. I wonder if there's going to be as much hubbub about this one as there was the last, as far as they should be asking questions. They should be asking how this happened, you know, how and when's going to be the next time. All right, and then Russian military aircraft detected off Alaskan coast for the fourth time in the past week, NORAD says. Dex, do you want to go over this with NORAD?
Yeah, so, I mean, this is crazy. The fact that it's the fourth time in just a week. So we talk about these when they happen. And mind you, these are, you know, we get them every now and then. Russian planes come, you know, hit our ADA zone, and then we scramble. We send some people up. NORAD responds. We talk about it. It does happen, but it's happened a lot here lately. Now, one of the reasons is they just had these drills they were doing, the combined drills with China. And we also had a first about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago where we talked about the first time both Russia and China's airplanes combined were encroaching on the ADIZ of Alaska. So that's happened. But yes, this one just seems it's just another reminder, but it's also the fact that things are getting heated up right now between Russia and the West, most specifically the US, but also the UK. So when we see this, and then this time it's happening more frequently, you start to wonder, are we getting closer to that normalization tactic that happens, that you start to do this so often that people go, hey, don't worry about it. And then you never know when the real thing is. And
of course, in fact, we're going to go to a pipeline explosion in Houston. I'm going to go backwards here for a second. Russia says that it retakes 2 villages in its western Kursk region. Russia said on Monday that its forces had retaken control of 2 villages in its western Kursk region from Ukraine, continuing what Moscow says is a significant counteroffensive there. Russian forces have been battling Ukrainian troops from Kursk region since August 6, when Kiev surprised Moscow with the biggest foreign attack on Russian soil since World War II. Reuters could not be independently verifying the report by Russia's defense ministry that its troops had retaken the settlements of Uspensovka and Borky. They lie about 12 miles apart on the border from Ukraine's Sumy region. A senior Russian commander and pro-Kremlin war bloggers said last week that Russia had restored control over about 10 settlements in the region, an assertion Reuters was unable to confirm. So I would believe that they would be able to go in there and take a lot of this back, considering that, the entire Ukrainian military isn't in Russia right now. From what they say, there's at least 10,000, right, troops, but it is not the entire military. You've got military back in Ukraine defending against the current, of course, invasion by Russia. But now you have, of course, Ukraine in there with huge areas of Russia essentially under their control. So what is the real deal here? Who is telling the truth as far as what is happening here? Many of the people I've talked to believe that they are, in fact, trying to move in on Moscow. And I know that sounds really crazy, but after talking to one of the active duty military members that is in the Fugel fam, it actually makes a whole lot of sense if you believe one way or another. But who would have ever thought we would be at a point where they actually have the Ukrainian military, which many believe is a direct kind of string held up by NATO and Western nations because they essentially have something invested in the actual country. Who would have thought that NATO and Western nations would essentially be either using or putting a country like Ukraine into Russia and trying to move in on Moscow? Well, some look at it as it's totally backwards from what they're telling us. Most of us here in this community, really a lot of people just really doubt what our media is telling us, period. So I at this point, I don't know what's actually happening right now, but one thing I can tell you for sure is if they do end up moving in and they try to expand and move into or try to attack Russia with the missiles that they just got almost an approval for, I guess we'll see if they can use the Storm Shadows and the long-range missiles. If they end up hitting Moscow or the capital, or if they try to take out Vlad, what do you guys think is going to happen? I believe that is the start of World War III, because they are not going to think it's Ukraine. They already don't think it's Ukraine. They think it is the Western nations that are pulling the strings. So whether it's true or not, that is what Russia is communicating that it believes. So no matter how you cut this is really not looking good. Some that do not like Russia, and they are actually almost cheering them on in a way just because they worry that if Russia does start losing, that something else is about to happen. They're saying they're hoping that Russia does take them out of their country, because maybe then things would settle down. I don't think it is. I think that there is something coming that is way bigger than anybody thinks. Because really, the big things right now aren't even a big deal right now. Our former president just had 2 attempts on his life, one of them extremely close. And that's not even, a giant thing right now. People are so used to the craziness that now it takes something really big to wrap their head around. And I do not think that people could wrap their head around what is coming. That's how big I believe that this is. It's kind of like how we couldn't wrap our head around the first month or two of CV. It was like we're in disbelief. We're really stuck at home. The governments across the planet kept us at home. That's nuts, okay? Especially for what it was. And then when you look back at it and you go, well, if it wasn't what they thought it was, and if a lot of this was pretty shady, then what else do you think that they would be able to do? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then, Dex, can you talk about the pipeline explosion near Houston?
Yeah, sure. So a pipeline erupted in a towering flame, forcing evacuation. So apparently this was in near Houston. I guess it's saying Deer Park, Texas, is the location. But if the images that were seen and the videos that were there was this massive flame that was towering over the neighborhoods for hours today, and it forced evacuations and shelter orders. Melting playground equipment, and firefighters obviously had to struggle to keep even the nearby homes from burning from all the heat coming off of this. But operators were able to shut off the flow of natural gas liquids. It was a natural gas fire from a pipeline there. The pipeline that firefighters could do nothing but watch and hose down the adjacent homes. So that was kind of a very scary thing that was happening at the time. But the fire is very hot, so a lot of the house structures that are adjacent are still catching on fire, even though we're putting out lots of water on them, according to the fire department there. So I believe I heard, and I can't remember if it's in this article or not, that somebody had said that a vehicle may have ran into that or something had crushed into that pipe, but that may have been a different accident. But nonetheless, this one was amazingly big and obviously scared a lot of people in that location there because of the size and the fact that they really couldn't do anything until the gas pipeline was shut off.
Yeah, so with one thing that's just made me think of, and it is a little unrelated, but was all of the plants and all of the different crazy kind of infrastructure that's had all of these crazy events like fires, explosions, chemical reactions. One thing I don't hear too many people talking about anymore is all of the plants. Every time one does catch fire, then people kind of bring it up temporarily. But why isn't there long-term questions asking about why so many different places that produce food, so many places, factories, making really important stuff, why these places have caught fire? Why have all of these things happened? Obviously, when one happens and it adds to the list of 20 this year or whatever it is, it's like, yeah, people will bring it up for a day, but why? Is there no groups almost forming and asking questions and really demanding answers for all of these coincidental kind of events? Look at the inflation we have right now. If people don't think that those played a part into it, the chicken factory, this factory, that, and the fact that farms are getting bought up left and right, and then once they're bought up, they're not even used as farms. I mean, like, farmers are being offered, twice as much for their land to basically just have it sit there. Like, what the hell is going on? I personally think I don't think people could really understand how much is involved here. But that's just my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Scott Dixon, thank you, says wages G4 storm now, just a heads up. Yes, totally. So I don't know if you're talking about another one, but I would believe it. Wages will text me the updates. And again, guys, check out Wages if you haven't already. Scott Dixon, we're actually going to be talking about Diddy here in a second. He did, as of a couple hours ago, he did get arrested in New York. So we will be covering that. But T-Man and Diddy distraction, focus. But there's a major Senate hearing for OpenAI to testify. A big GOOGLE, the head honchos of this executive is going to testify tomorrow. Now, focus here. LOL, so many distractions. Scott Dixon, I agree. But at the same time, everybody calls everything is a distraction now. Others would go, oh, that OpenAI thing is just a distraction from this. I guess it is perspective. But at this point, I believe that many people do not actually know that there is a real war coming. The real war is going to bring in the real change. And that real change is going to be something that I don't think any of us are going to like. EricsPlace.com. Let's see here. Just wanted to stop by and say thank you to the entire Foogle family and Adaman family and Dex. And the greatest people of all. You guys, people are awesome. Hey, thank you, Eric's Place. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your support. And then Yemen shot a ballistic missile 1,500 kilometers and hit target in Tel Aviv. This is actually big news. Stephen McMahon. With all of that, we're going to talk about that as well. And then Robert Nelson, I believe I missed you yesterday, so thank you so much for your support. And thank you, the new subscribers here. We've got Cynthia DeMoss. Cynthia DeMoss, thank you, and sorry for messing that one up. Shastina, thank you so much for being a member for 12 months. And then Red Wine Entertainment, thank you for subscribing. Mad Max, thank you for subscribing. Toy, thank you for subscribing. So I appreciate that. And then Gillian Mason, thank you as well for being a member. And Nala Lucky One and Metro X, thank you for subscribing. Appreciate all of the new people that have just popped in. All right. And then Cuba slashes size of daily bread ration as ingredients run thin. Dex, why are they slashing their rations?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're having huge problems with their economy and the food supply there. The communist-run government on Monday slashed by a quarter the weight of its subsidized ration of daily bread. It's the latest shortage to strain in a decades-old subsidy scheme created by Fidel Castro. The bread, one of a handful of still subsidized basic food products in Cuba, will be reduced from 80 grams to 60 grams, or appropriately the weight of an average cookie or a small bar of soap. Its price, too, was slightly reduced, just under 1 peso and 1/3 cent. Still, many Cubans who earn around 4,648 pesos a month, or around $15, can scarcely afford to shop for more expensive bread on the private market, leaving them with few alternatives. So, yeah, Cuba last week said it had run short of the wheat flour it needs to produce the bread, a predicament the government blames on the U.S. trade embargo, a complex web of restrictions that complicate Cuba's global financial transactions. So, the embargo is one thing, but I certainly think there's some options here with the trade that they do have, and we've seen how all the other countries have gotten around their sanctions, but it's certainly not a pretty environment, I guess, for the folks that are there, especially if they're in economic trouble. They're not able to get, the kind of food that they would want to get. It's going to make people feel like they want to leave. And at the same time, it's also going to create potential unrest in their country if it continues. But Cuba has done somewhat of a job of managing that. We've seen from time to time it flare up, but not as much as we've seen in other countries.
Here's my question. How is the Cuban military treated as far as food? How are their families treated? How are they treated as far as pay? I just have a wondering that, obviously Cuba is telling its citizens this is the U.S.'s fault. Cuba has been working extremely closely with Russia. We covered a story about 8 months ago, something like that essentially said that Cuba is now going to allow up to 200,000 Russian tourists into their country. And we said 200,000 Russian tourists? What if those are troops? And then right after that, all of a sudden you had Russia go down and visit Havana. Russia's big Navy ships, destroyers and stuff went down and stopped by Havana. Did they send somebody that ended up making a speech here, says, "Oh, these Americans, they're the ones behind why your families are starving. They're the reasons why you are so bad off. Join the military." Cuba, I believe, is a huge deal too, because it's going to be one of the places where, say, Russia or anybody, if we were invaded, Cuba would be used, Venezuela would be used. All of these places where they could take off, jets from, and then Cuba, of course, has Chinese spy plants there and training facilities. Russia and China have both built things there and are working very closely with them. So I just wonder what the heck is going on here. Is it purposeful, or is it because of the situations with the embargo? What is it really? I know we're all here. We all see how bad it's getting. I can't imagine being somewhere like Cuba talking about rations. And then before we move on, again, if things do get bad, you definitely want to have on hand antibiotics, because a cut on your finger could turn into a funeral. And again, without exaggeration, the tiniest thing, if it goes wrong and you don't have modern day medicine, things would end up being a really horrific situation. But because we do have modern medicine and modern antibiotics, that doesn't happen. That is why we live so long now compared to way back in the day when, somebody my age would be an old man. But again, if you want to get these at a very, very, very easy process to do, go over to marfooglenews.com/Jace. It's a telehealth appointment with a board-certified doctor, and you can get yourself a Jace case. This has all of the most common antibiotics in it. And again, it comes in a nice, handy carrying case, and that way you'll have antibiotics when you need them. They also do Jace Daily, so if you're a caregiver or if you take regular medications yourself, this is an essential. As far as being able to have a 12-month supply of your regular medications is a giant deal. You can, of course, rotate your normal prescription into it while everything is fine. That way you'll always have a year of extra medications. Go to marfooglenews.com/Jace and make sure to use the code MARF. Again, if the light's turned off or if there's a disaster, you're cut off from everything, something like this, or the hospitals and pharmacies are down, something like this could be a giant, giant lifesaver. Go to marfooglenews.com/Jace, Jase, code MARF to not only save, but to also save independent media as well. You end up helping us as well. So thank you guys for doing so. And then God of Chaos, Asteroid Apophis, could still hit Earth in 2029. So we actually talked about this on the video over on TV, but I find this really, really interesting, and you guys know, especially on this channel, you know that I have covered this time and time again on my channel. And I've talked about my crazy theory, and I'm totally nuts when it comes to this, because I feel like even events like Sunspot Observatory shutting down, Black Hawk helicopters going in and saying that this guy had stuff in a network of computer stuff and all of this. Basically, the official narrative was something that nobody is going to bring up at the office, nobody's going to bring up at the water cooler, that everybody, it's a very taboo subject. It's also something that nobody really wants to even address, which is, you know, the wee ones, but bad pictures of them. And that's what they said this Sunspot Observatory thing was. The Sunspot Observatory not only closed down, they didn't just go in, raid him, and take him out. They closed down for 11 days. They closed down the post office next to it, which to me does not make any freaking sense. And they looked at all of the houses. They actually went door to door asking people if they knew the guy. And then, sorry, I've got like a hair floating right in front of my eyeball. They asked all of these neighbors if they had talked to him. They spoke to the post office. They spoke to people, right? Why did it shut down for so long? Well, they kind of made it like, oh, well, there was just kind of one guy running this whole solar observatory or whatever. I feel like that was so just completely BS in my opinion. And also, they came in, it wasn't just a SWAT team. They came in with Black Hawk helicopters, according to the locals. So that's like something like they found out about something, the government swooped in, went to the post office, made sure that the guy didn't... This is how I see it in my head. And this is the crazy part, because this is straight out of an apocalypse movie. Kind of like one of them, I believe. Asteroid or whatever one, Deep Impact. Where the guy finds out about the asteroid, is driving with a hard drive, and he's trying to get, you know, the information out and drives off a cliff. Well, it's like, I almost see something like that. Like, did they think that he sent something out? And the motive behind this, why hide that, why do that kind of thing, why have such a cover, is because if they did know something was going to hit Earth, and something probably big, much bigger than Apophis, and they say if something like this happened, it would be coming from the sun's direction because we would not easily be able to spot it. If something like that happened, what kind of response would you have? In my opinion, you would have a Sunspot Observatory kind of response. They would send in Black Ops from the nearest military base to be there in 2 minutes once they found out. They would go in hard and heavy with special ops, take any kind of information. They would shut down the post office. They would take everybody. They would evacuate the area. Why did they need to evacuate the area in the first place? Was there a risk that he had it rigged up to blow or something? Like, I didn't understand any of that. They have tweaked the official narrative over the years, so now when you go back and go look at it, I would highly recommend going to the Wayback Machine, and any article that you see, go back to the Wayback Machine and look at it before they altered it. That's why I think that there's something weird here. As long in the same time period of the last 15 years, obviously you have SpaceX, you have all of these parties trying to get off Earth, you have all of the richest billionaires not buying up and gobbling up land like most billionaires, but they're buying and getting into rockets to get off Earth. Why? Why is Elon so, set on going to Mars? Why has he hinted towards something hitting the Earth? Elon himself has literally posted time and time again, like, oh, well, what if this happens? And he's the same one that is coming up with these reusable rockets that can basically take people off of Earth. Why is every country coming up with an asteroid defense? Why are they doing tests like DART? This is the question I have. And again, going back to the story, we talk about this over on our other video in a short, very to-the-point video over on Marfoogle News. But as far as with this, there's a new study says they're going to wait 3 more years, and they still have to figure out if the Apophis asteroid still won't hit. There's still a chance that it could hit. If you know the history of Apophis, when it was initially found, they said, oh, it is going to hit, or it's probably going to hit. It was most likely to hit. And then they go, oh, wait, we followed it for a couple more days, and we found out, no, it's not. And it's actually not likely, and it's going to rotate, and it's going to keep coming around. I know people that say, well, I know all the data on this, and I follow all of the official, I can do the math and the data on it. I'm like, why can't they change that data? That's my thing, is you don't think that they can change the data? If they can lock all of us down across the planet, you don't think that they could change data on a website or get a place to officially say this is the data? I don't know. It's just my crazy, crazy thought. And oddly enough, that came out on September 11th. And then, of course, what else happened on September 11, which, Dex, it was the 11th that this attempt went down, right? Or no, it was the 14th or 13th. Never mind. I was thinking something else.
That would be the Time magazine cover was the 11th.
No, that's right. That's right. So on the 11th, the same day, Time magazine ended up posting this, right? Now, it says it's for the September 30 issue. I don't get the context of why they posted it later than what the issue is, but this is very obviously an AI picture. It's got the hat with the jumbled letters. That's typical AI. It doesn't know how to do real letters. It has him backing up a sand trap there, and it says that everybody described it as him going downhill. But it's actually him clearly backing up out of a sand trap. You can see the dirt flying up, and it says in trouble. And he's on a golf course looking distressed behind him. Now, I don't know. It would be lovely to see if there was video. If there was video or something of this actual event or security footage of him on the course, you would think that they would have some poles every 100 feet to really watch the golf course. But was he on his cart? That would be really creepy. We don't know that. And then as far as this goes, this was put out on September 11. It's just freaking weird. And then a little red flag in the background, right? Thought it was interesting. Obviously, they're going after this. Now there's many op-eds saying, oh, they've all associated with Laura, and they've even Mrs. Loomer, and they even misspelled her name to Boomer in some of the articles, and it's like they purposely did that so people can't find her, I guess, or so that she can't, I don't know, possibly sue him. I don't know. But they're basically saying that she, they attach her to anything that essentially, they want to say is kooky. Yeah, it is pretty crazy that this came out just a few days before him at a golf course ended up getting an attempt. And it says, in trouble. I mean, yeah. There's some weird stuff that happens, right? To make any other kind of, a lot of people say just predictive kind of programming type stuff. To make any claims beyond that is speculative, right? But I do think it is also weird that there was a tweet by the Ayatollah that put out a video of the president, former president, on his golf course getting taken out by a drone. And it shows a video of him through some bushes. It literally has the first shot of the video shows bushes on either side looking through the bushes at the president golfing. I mean, it's crazy that life is like this at this point. Again, the guy that was caught apparently was a avid X-poster. He posted a lot of tweets that almost looked like they were automated. They said that the guy that tried to take him out, and they said that they saw the barrel, all of that, that. But apparently he was, again, a recruiter for civilians to go into Ukraine to fight Russia. So yeah, there's a lot of little things like this, right? Little flags. So again, be polite in the comments. Be careful. Again, thank your mods. Make sure to drop an M in the chat right now for your wonderful mods. I know they would appreciate it. And again, marfooglenews.com/prep. If you're not prepped up right now, make sure to go get some food. This is a great way to do it because you get a giant, anywhere from $60 to $200, depending on the time period you watch this. You can get $200 off on a 3-month plan, depending on when you watch this. So get over there and check it out. They have freeze-dried food in packages anywhere from a single meal all the way up to 3 months. Now, the 3-month package is the best deal. It will end up costing you less than what you're going to pay per person for a meal, for 1 day per day, but for an entire day of 3 meals. It really does break down to be absolutely cheaper than what you're getting at the store right now to feed, one person for a meal per day when you break it down. But this is for 3 meals a day. So this is a really, really great deal as far as that goes. Freeze-dried food can last 25 years. It is packaged in Mylar bags and then sealed in buckets, so you can store it easily and efficiently. So go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. You don't need any sort of code. This one, you use that link and you will automatically get any discounts applied. So make sure to go check it out. They also have other stuff there. Not a lot of people know this, but they have gadgets. They have radios. They have the Alexa Pure water filtration system. That is another thing. You can basically take out all of the nastiness, the lead, all the junk pharmaceuticals out of your water with that. So that could be good for just today, cleaning your water. marfooglenews.com/prep. All right, and then Dex, last points on T-Man and the craziness around that.
Well, how about, let me change subjects. How about Diddy and the arrest there? I found some more information on what's happened with that.
Oh, that's
and
right.
Apparently, yeah, he went to he moved to New York and relocated to New York in anticipation of this because he said he's been cooperative with the investigation. Now, what came out was he was arrested today because of a grand jury indicted him, but it's sealed. We don't know what it is, and now they do speculate that it's probably racketeering and sex king. Which is what everybody assumes, and it more likely is that. But yeah, that's the actual announcement hasn't come out of what it is because it's a sealed indictment. So, but he's been indicted. He's in New York. He's in Manhattan. He went there, and of course said that his legal team said he wasn't. He was disappointed with the decisions for them to prosecute him, but he was had been cooperative with the investigation. So.
Disappointed.
That's what we know. Yeah.
Disappointed with the decision to arrest him. Yeah, I bet the billionaire mogul is. And then something like that. If you were a literal billionaire, how many billionaires have we seen get arrested and stay in jail? That's one question I have. Do you know any off the top of your head? Has a billionaire ever been arrested? Can they be arrested? Has there ever been a billionaire that has taken the life of another? I mean, often we'll see very, very rich and beloved people, like, Mr. OJ back in the day was a football hero. Everybody knows he did it. Somehow he got off. You see that all the time where you have very popular people in the public eye somehow escape the craziest crimes. How is he going to do it? His name has come synonymous with, the horrible act of I mean, literally, people have made his name in it. You can play Call of Duty. You'll see 40 people's names named after Diddy. Diddy do it, and they're doing it on purpose to troll people. I mean, it's everywhere. Dex, go ahead.
I was going to give you one that I could think of that at his peak was very rich, Bankman-Fried, and he's in jail.
Yeah, but you also wonder, if he actually had any of that money, in cash. That is a good example. But was he a billionaire, or was he a multimillionaire? Or did he have the company that owned all that money?
They combined wealth well over 40 billion as far as the amount of what they were managing. And I think he was ranked like, he was up there at his peak. It was something like top 400 richest people or something.
So is he still in prison right now?
Oh yeah, he's in prison.
And then how long is he in there for?
Yeah, he was ranked 41st richest American at his peak net worth. I don't remember what that net worth was, but that's the ranking that he had.
Gosh, that is absolutely nuts. And then let's see here, the other thing. Yeah, and then there was another thing that's not verified right now. Let me see if I can. There was a thing with a military base, and I was trying to see it does not look like anybody is covering it yet. But we will end up covering that tomorrow if it's not just speculation. By the way, thank you so much, M. St. G. I appreciate your support over on the super thanks on the last show. Thank you. Scott Dixon, ericsplace.com. Thank you. Kat, thank you so much. Says, remember to hit the like button. Hit it. Hey, thank you. And you guys know I don't tell you guys to hit the like button. But it would be really cool if all of a sudden one day everybody just started doing it out of habit. I would love to see, and I'm super curious, like, would it actually help? It would be a cool experiment. Give it a try. Hit the like button if you're watching the replay. And then Scott Dixon, thank you. ericsplace.com, thank you. Stephen McMahon, thank you. Brian Sabia, if you're watching, thank you. Danish Girl, thank you. Stephanie Cook, of course, UFO Disclosure TV. I hope you're awesome and you're creating. Genius by Birth, thank you for the super thanks on the last show as well. Thank you, everybody that joined us. Make sure to also go check out our friends and our awesome mods at marfooglenews.com/friends. You have everyone from Bones and Chance, CJ Blaze, Optical Gem, Wages World. Of course, you've got RGL Harris, Ilea, Trinity, Wages. Everybody you can think of that you have seen in our chat is over there on the friends list. Not to mention a lot of great creators you can check out on our off days. So make sure to go check them out as well. We will see you guys tomorrow. Again, thank you for making it. If, again, it is the end of the show, I think it's time for something called, I can't remember what it's called. It's not a shout out. It's not an outro. It's a shoutro.
You don't have to be high. You don't have to be high to see the problem in the sky. You don't have to be